right, good evening, everybody. It is 6:05 p.m. on Monday, April 10th. This is the Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
Google Docs, of course.
No, the agenda's on the website under the agendas tab. All right, let's go around the table and just everybody can state their names. Starting with Mr. McKnight.
Preston McKnight, high school principal.
David Rathgeb.
Connor Kurtz.
Carol Bites.
Mary Beth Kiesel.
Rob Hurley.
Jenny Rexroad.
And Mrs. Weber is in and out. Beginning here, if we could also, I don't know if we can get copies of the agenda printed just for if members of the public come. Not, a huge thing today, but and also for some committee members here. But, and Mrs. Hefter's here. No problem. All right, first up on.
So bad?
Wait, traffic's bad.
Yeah, 422 at
Oh,
back.
my God.
Oh,
I thought you were being funny. That's hysterical. Traffic's funny coming over. Traffic's bad coming over.
Weavertown Road, it gets
Yes,
nasty.
killing me today.
Well, 420 is always terrible. Anyway, PSSA testing. Mr. Hurley.
I just wanted to give you an update because this is the reality of schools right now. Right now, this month is filled in between grades 3 and 8. Is dominated by PSSA testing. This week is our English and Language Arts assessment, like I said, in grades 3 to 8. To give you a rough idea, all the students in grades 3 to 8 take the ELA test, they take the math test. Grade 4 does science, and grade 8 does science also. Just to give you an idea of what's happening with testing-wise, Jenny won the award this year. She has the most opt-outs. She has 35 opt-outs. That's approximately 4 to 5% of the population. That starts to affect things in test scores and SPT scores and all that stuff down the road. She got a good chunk of people this year.
How many? 38?
She had 35 as of my last count. The other buildings aren't as bad. Amity, I believe, had 17 opt-outs last I checked, and Birdsboro had about 4 or 5.
Now, are we allowed to ask questions of these opt-outs?
Now, if they claim a religious exemption, which is the only thing that's permissible under PDE Chapter 4 regulations, we can't say what in there is.
Right.
The only requirement is that they view the test, sign a confidentiality statement, and then after they sign they submit a letter that states it's against their religious beliefs, and we're not allowed to challenge it as.
Is it possible before, for example, while they're reviewing the copy of the test, can we say how important it is for our school district and our scores? Or can we influence them before they sign that document in any way, or do we have to be completely silent and hands-off?
No, we
tried.
Okay.
We have educational.
Before that moment.
But not at the moment they
Yeah.
walk into that room. They're not allowed to take their phones.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to.
I would think these are
stripped
folks
down.
that are planning to opt out because they don't like testing.
Right.
And it's not, they're not. I don't think there's anything you can do to change.
They know.
All right. Well,
And the sad thing is that although that's all well and good, I don't believe that our legislators look at that number and say, oh, well, those are all the people who, don't believe in the PSSA. Those are all the people who are opting out for religious reasons. So
I doubt that. I just, but.
well, I'd be surprised if our legislators even pay attention to the number of opt-outs, honestly.
That's what I mean. It's not.
Legislator.
I don't think that's really on their radar. So I know what parents are trying to do, and they've said that. They're trying to send a statement, but,
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I mean, I think, we don't have quite a good balance of this yet. But I don't know if this is one of those things where I don't know if it helps or hurts. Whether I don't think that legislatures look at those numbers. So I don't think this silent movement is having any.
exactly.
I have a question
Maybe
about
there was
the
a
opt-outs
hunting
real
time
quick.
and some
When I
legislators
observed
have paid
last
attention.
year or the year before at AEC, the opt-outs were put in the computer room. There was 3 of them, and then as the kids, it's an untimed test, so when they completed the test, which is usually about an hour, the tests are scooped up, and the kids who were not done the test yet were brought into the computer lab also, and the rest of their test was proctored there. Right? So just wondering, how are we handling 35 opt-outs now? Like, that worked for them, and they were mainstream. My concern was that they weren't treated differently. They weren't banished into a hall closet, and I did have parents that approached me about that. I wanted to make sure that the kids were fairly treated who opted out. And can you make those same assurances for me this year in light of these
Our
numbers?
35 are in the library, and the library has a computer lab, and obviously the library, we chose that spot because it gives students the opportunity to use the computers if they need them for anything. They obviously have a plethora of reading material to look at. Teachers are required, and that is in the information that parents get, and parents do ask for that. Teachers are required to provide things for them to do. There are obviously things that are not graded because the other students aren't doing them,
Right.
but there are
Right.
activities for them to do while they're
Good.
And how long?
They were mainstream. They were treated fairly.
How long did does the testing period last?
Testing is about 2 hours each day.
And for how many days?
4 for language arts, 3 for math, and then there is science, but that's just 8.
Right.
And that's,
Do we have a window as to when we can choose to test, or is it?
It's a tight window. It's like this week.
I mean, it seems like right before the break. Was that intentional before the break?
What's that?
I mean, is that intentional?
well, that's why they took the 2 weeks off. It was last week. You have the 5 days of last week to do 4 days of testing.
Yeah.
This week is off.
This week's off. Okay, all right.
Because school's obviously.
Yeah, that's what I
off.
was kind of concerned.
And then next week is off because
Okay.
some schools may have Monday off.
Perfect.
And then the following week is the math week. And then the following week is the science week.
Okay.
It's a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else is good though on the PSSA front.
Everything's going very
Yeah.
smooth.
It has been.
We're confident we're going to get some improved scores this year, even though we did well.
Absolutely.
Very good. All
Got that
right.
on recording?
Yeah, we'll hold you to it. Anybody?
And for the
PSSA
record, our opt-outs are right around 3%. I don't think there's any red flags for us, and considering the district can we hit 5%. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's always
When it
concerns
starts to
because
impact.
we do, I mean, schools are evaluated, it does count against us as a school, number one. Number two, we do look at the data, we try to use it educationally, and so when a student does opt out, it's one less data point that we do have. So anytime, obviously, we have less information to act on. Doesn't mean we don't have metrics, because we do, it just means we have less.
That's only if the results come in before August.
Oh, that's true too, which is one of the problems.
It helps with
Well,
placements in subsequent years, right?
absolutely. And so,
If
and you're pointing out one of the flaws.
DRC will get our
I
results
can
to
tell you a
our
lot of inputs,
administrators.
but
Thank you.
Well
But
said,
I respectfully disagree, or I hope that you can show me privately how we are impacted at 3%. Because all my research with the state was there was no impact on the school when it was 3%. Now, I will stand corrected if you point that out. Thank you.
All right. Next up, I don't see Mr. Metz here. Technology in schools overview. Can you speak to this?
I can give you some information,
Okay.
rough information.
So I had asked Mr. Hurley or Mr. Metz, to give us an overview of the technology that we're using in the district and how much it costs, and also I'm interested just to know how technology is incorporated into our pedagogy, I guess. And if you can just it's helpful having a list. Thank you for getting that together and doing it relatively
No problem.
quickly.
And thank you for everyone else and my other administrators who helped me put this together. And just a rough idea. This is the technology that we use from a curricular standpoint. It is not, I'll give you some examples like a hybrid's Microsoft Office that we use very much operationally.
Right,
But
okay.
we also teach word processing, not necessarily software specific.
So this is just purely academic
This is
stuff.
purely
Right.
academic that's here. And there's some other things brewing in the background, which for example, we're looking at a new SIS right now, which is a student information system. You can say that's operational, but ultimately that's a data warehouse. Ultimately has the potential to include our lesson planning. We've interviewed 2 companies, and that's a massive undertaking. I mean, guys, that's that's what we now use as eSchool. That's a massive
What is it
project.
again, please?
It's a student information system, which could have things like our data warehouse in it, we could store, depending on which one we go with, could store our lesson planning that we get from teachers. So some of these are very integrated. We could have some child accounting, which is a little bit, so there could be some cross-curricular types of things. So we've interviewed 2 companies in regards to that right now. That's kind of operational, it's kind of academic, it kind of goes into both depending on the modules that the particular software has. Like I said, there's 2 that we've interviewed so far. We have a lot more work to do on that because that is no small undertaking because that stores every piece of information on every child in our school district. So that's a longer discussion, but we're in the process of doing that. Stay tuned on that particular piece. What I have in front of you is the purely academic software pieces, and certainly any building principal is welcome to chime in. What I did is I put down the title of the software itself. I put down a purpose of the software. You can see Study Island. You can see that's our primarily, and I'm going to put the primary purpose of that is it's our benchmarking software. Much like in business, you have key performance indicators. Educationally, we try to, as building principals, we try to get a feel for where our students are at the beginning of the year, where they're at the middle of the year, and where we end up the year. It kind of gives us, it's more like a thermometer that we use as we go along. It also lets us know from a standpoint, from a teacher standpoint, are they hitting their kids and how well are they doing throughout the school year? And then the third piece I'd like to add to that is not only does it do those 2 particular things for us, we use it as a screening tool. If a kid is not doing well and they're not hitting the benchmark, or they're not making progress towards the benchmarks, sometimes that is, maybe we need to do a diagnostic test or more in depth. It's kind of more of our quick screening tool that we use. We use Study Island, and for example, you can use it to create customized assessments. Mr. McKnight and Mrs. Weber just created a customized, we needed another data point, is basic, and it lines it up with the academic standards, and we needed another data point for our math program to make sure we got kids placed in the right math courses at the high school. The high school was able to go to their standardized test questions that they have, chose the ones that would best line them up with different courses, and give us another data point at the high school. So it's versatile in that way. Some of the other areas we're starting, Study Island, one of the side benefits, and it was not when, and I was in the building level when it was originally purchased, we purchased this instead of a program called Foresight that we were just using for benchmark testing. This Study Island also provides us with a curricular piece, and I say curricular, basically an instructional piece also. Not as near as robust as like Compass Odyssey or things like that,
Okay.
but it does provide us with stuff, and so it's another tool that we
So do
have.
students, what is the interaction between students themselves and Study Island? Like, do they go into a computer lab once a month, once a week, and sit down and do
Here's what I can guarantee, and I'll let principals chime in on this too. Every student from grades 3 through 8, and then we have high schools using it a little bit different way, but they use it for their benchmark assessments. So at minimum, they're going to have something at the beginning of the year, something at the middle of the year as a screening tool at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. So every student in those grades gets it there. Study Island does not go down. It's not appropriate for the younger kids, K1 and 2, but it does provide us with a litmus test there, and certainly it's used.
What does the benchmarking, what does that look like? Is it just questions and multiple choice answers? Is it like something interactive?
Is it progress towards the PSSAs?
Progress towards the academic standards, which are measured by the PSSA.
Well, if I were a student, if I were in 4th grade and I sit down to do my benchmark exam, what do I experience? Is it just text? Is it pictures? Yeah.
There are passages that the students read and then questions that they answer. So they have to read a passage, answer comprehension questions, those kinds of things.
Okay.
And then there's a written portion as well. So the TDAs or the open-ended response questions, those are on there too, so students do that.
And those are the things that they will see on the PSSA,
Interesting.
right?
Right, and then the
So
teachers.
it's sort of training them, getting ready for.
I'm glad to hear this distinction because I've always assumed in the back of my mind that this is just like Compass Odyssey, like I had when I was in elementary school,
This
and it's
is
not at all.
aligned to the PA course standards.
Okay.
Teachers can use it as a diagnostic tool as well. So,
Right.
To flag deficiency, and then they get additional testing, right?
Yes, or teaching, they
Or
get
teaching.
additional
You can get
instruction.
instruction right from,
Yep.
it's robust enough to tell you what
Yes.
those.
There are activities that the teachers can have their kids complete.
So this is
It can be very frustrating in the beginning of the year as well because it is basically testing
Somewhere
towards
they
the
have.
end of that year. So you're going to identify gifted and advanced students very easily.
Okay.
They'll score very well. which will drive instruction for those students. But then you're also going to be able to see who's in the middle and who really is struggling by their score.
And the idea
That's
by the
the design of a
benchmarking,
benchmark
right,
test.
is to see
Right.
it's
To
very
give
good.
them more than they should have
Well, that must
mastered.
be very nice and for teachers to see at the end of the year. Well, here's how all of my students grew. Great. All right.
Shows growth.
I've been on this board for 5 years. I haven't. My conception of Study Island was always something a little bit different than what it actually is. So I'm glad we hit on that. Now,
Are
speaking
they
of,
on it, just real quick,
Yeah.
more than 3 times a year then?
They can be, depending, they can be. What we did is we just told you the middle, depending on the teacher and their skill level. And actually, speaking of that, we're actually, as part, and they're doing it for free for us, we're getting a little bit of training in June for some of our
But if
teachers
study-
more, so they learn how to use some of the other
Yeah.
features above and beyond. We have a variety of levels of proficiency there. Some people are very good with it, like anything, and some people are still developing in that area. And so we're continuing to develop expertise in that particular software.
If it's not, I forget what it's called, like responsive, like Odyssey is, where your next question is built exactly
It's not-
how the
it's not
questions
computer
before.
adaptive.
No,
Computer
computer
adaptive.
adaptive, that's right.
It's not computer adaptive, then what is the point of us just putting kids through the
It's
test
not,
until
and
they
it's
get it
not
right?
it's not an adaptive.
It's not
software.
adaptive.
It's not an adaptive, it's measuring against the end result, which is the PD standard.
But if you don't instruct to get them to that.
That's the teacher's job is.
Understood.
That's a great question.
So-
And Carol, and I want to have that discussion about adaptive software and what that is, because that is where technology is going, using predictive analytics and adapting not only the instruction but the assessments. And there is some things out there. Alex is one of those.
We have
ones
Alex, yeah.
We have a couple.
Greenbox had, and there's some
And
powerful
Khan Academy, by
software.
the way.
And by the way, and you're correct, Khan Academy is actually, although the
I like the
instructional
price
piece
tag.
isn't great, but the price tag. But people misread, and we'll go to Khan Academy another day, but people misread it. It's not, the strength of Khan Academy isn't even the videos, it's what it's doing with the information and how it's guiding people through that. That's another discussion, and the price tag's good on that too.
Okay, good. Glad all those things are in there.
Good discussion.
can we contrast Study Island with number 2 on this list, Compass Odyssey?
Sure. Compass Odyssey, let me talk about Compass Odyssey. Compass Odyssey, the strength of Compass Odyssey is the robust nature of the courseware itself. It has more content areas in there than Study Island does, which is really focused on the assessments, where the state assessments are at. Compass Odyssey has other subject areas, and it provides more curriculum. And Compass Odyssey is also used, for example, as an intervention software. And Carol, you saw this, you came in and you saw Carrie Armstrong do it. It's part of her RTI program at the middle level, and it's used heavily there. It's done very well. It's much more robust in terms of the amount of courseware and curriculum material that the kids can progress through. I'm not saying Study Island isn't getting there, and Study Island may get there because Edumentum just purchased Study Island. So we're monitoring, now it's a bigger company, and so we're monitoring that very closely in terms of the amount of content that they can do. We've had a lot of success in our RTI programs with Compass Odyssey in terms of our intervention programs in the middle school. The other place we use Compass Odyssey is in our summer school. And it doesn't mean there's not other things out there that can replace that for summer school, because there are other programs out there that can do that. But because Compass Odyssey has so many subject areas, it's very robust in terms of what we can do in creating courses for our summer school program. Students do contribute. Obviously, they pay fees to the summer school, which helps in that regard. I can also say Compass Odyssey is used by some teachers because it is legacy software that we've had here, so we probably have more people who are comfortable in using that in terms of how they're using it within their classrooms. Obviously, we want to continue to build the capacity of our entire instructional staff to partner with technology to enhance their instruction. And I've shared this example, I think, individually with you before. I know of math teachers that when students don't do well in a particular area on a test, they remediate with Compass Odyssey by assigning specific modules in specific areas there. Does that happen everywhere? I'm not naive, it doesn't, but does it happen in some places? Yeah. We're watching Study Island, we're watching Compass Odyssey to see if they're still the best solution, and we're constantly revisiting those things. But as of now, that's what we're using as a district. Great question.
Do we have, again, going back to my experience as an elementary school student, we had, I believe, like one day a week, we had a class that was Compass Odyssey, where we went to the computer lab and we sat down in front of the computer and did Odyssey for time. Like, how is it? It's just purely supplemental now, up to the teacher's discretion. It's not like okay.
It really is underutilized in my mind, and I hope that the administration would consider, we bought the full package, $15,800. We have K to 12 across the board, all subjects, as I understand. I would like you to maybe eventually see if we can't knock that down, since we're paying so much for Study Island now. We went from Forsyth to Study Island, and I'm having trouble in my mind justifying both of those against price points. That's all. I'm not sure, and I know district-wide, it's way underutilized. Strictly because we don't have time.
Yeah,
Well-
give us a little bit of time to work on that, Calvin.
Please consider
We
it,
will,
that's all.
okay, we will.
But also, I don't wanna-
we're
And I love
studying
Odyssey.
this, yeah.
I don't want to have to tag the tail wag the dog here. I don't want to see we're paying a lot of money, so therefore we need to reorient our style to make sure that it's justified. I think it needs to be the opposite way around. If we're not using it, then we should find a way to save on it. If we're not using it as much, but I don't want to see it go back to how it was when I was in school. It was pretty much just you go and sit in front of the computer for 60 minutes, and that's
Yeah, that was the old days. That was the
Yeah,
only way
and I'm
it's
glad
on.
to hear that we're not doing that
We know
anymore.
what to do with this. We had it at Magdalen. We had it. I brought it in the year I was there. Yeah, just for 1 year. We got a grant.
But speaking of underutilized software, I want to talk about Worldbook here. I'm assuming it's underutilized because we never used it when I was in school. Can anybody speak to how often teachers would use, as opposed to, I mean, now there's, I don't want to equate them because I know there's a major difference, but I mean, there's Wikipedia out there, there's Encyclopedia Britannica, there's a lot of online resources. I said they're different in a critical respect, give me credit.
They're not sociable.
Yes, but I just wonder if, like, can we track how many hits our Worldbook account is used? Because I have a theory that really we're not using it much at all. And seeing it cost $3,000 a year.
Well, I guess the question is, can all these be, can Mr. Matz give us utilization for
All of them, I guess.
all of them?
Yeah, that'd be great. Fast forward, was that the grant that we got from,
That's a special ed intervention.
is Reading Rosie the one that was started with the $5,000 grant from Morlot, Jamelia? Okay, never mind. They gave it to Blazer Foundation. So none of these are the Blazer Foundation's donation, right? None of these are funded by Blazer Foundation.
That was United Way that did Reading Road.
Ready, Rosie?
No, I'm personally aware of a $5,000 grant that Jamelia gave from Morlotton Village, several years ago to the Blazer Foundation to bring a reading program into the district. I was just wondering if we ended up funding that ourselves now, or it was a reading, it was ready to read, I think. Was that?
I wonder if it was LLI, because I believe that we received a grant and we purchased LLI.
LLI?
I don't know if that's the same.
I know that the name of it changed right after he made the donation. But, okay, that's neither here nor there. Just curious if it was a perpetual grant or if it was just a one-time grant.
Well, here's another item. I know this is small potatoes in the overall scheme of things in the district, but could we possibly partner with a library, like the Boone Area Library, or maybe the Exeter Library even, in terms of, I bet there are area libraries that have subscriptions to some of these online encyclopedias, and if we can somehow pool our resources, like that just seems like like some low-hanging fruit, quite honestly. And I don't want to say we shouldn't, research is important, but, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe we're really utilizing the $3,000 Worldbook subscription, and if I am, then I hope I am wrong. But anyway, just a thought there. So if we can dig into that, and if we can get usage statistics, that would be helpful. But I don't want to. Maybe it's going to be too much work.
Is there a lot of redundancy here on all these reading programs? Now, because one especially. What's the total here? I don't see it. You know what the technology is?
Probably 50,000.
I'll figure it out.
More than that.
And in your mind, Mr. Hurley, these are all necessary at this point in time.
These textbook companies, though, I mean, Pearson, we buy the book and then we have to spend $13,000 on.
It's the technology supplements of that. That expires. That's part of our budget. It's been brought to my attention that the teachers use that extensively. It's been budgeted for. We have it in the budgets. It allows the digital access, the digital components, as well as the common formative assessments that are part of that program.
Turn It In I have thoughts on this, philosophical thoughts. We won't go into that. But how do we deal with plagiarism right now at the high school, at the middle school, at all levels?
Yes, again.
Plagiarism. How is it addressed? Is it just a conversation between teacher and student? Do students?
It's discipline. I mean, it's up to the teacher ultimately, which direction they want to take the grade. They can give them, it's in our handbook. So
Right.
It's in the handbook, it's laid out there. So it could be the maximum of a 0 and discipline that goes along with it, or it could be just a discipline. The teacher allows them to do some makeup work to it, or
Well, I hope
just a conversation.
the reason I think it's important here is, it speaks to character, first of all, and this is a time to, when I was in college, they appointed an undergraduate student to be on the appeals board for students who were accused of academic dishonesty, and I was able to, it was almost like a legal proceeding in some ways, these cases. And if you can find a way just to communicate with these students early on in their academic careers that, you have to cite your sources correctly, like all the bells and
I think our
whistles.
teachers do a good job.
Okay.
Talking about that and training them.
The controversy around Turnitin, though, is essentially they, harvest the information. If I submitted an essay, I had to for class, I was compelled to do it by the school. They keep that essay on file, and then they cross-check other students' work against my essay, and they're collecting, they're being paid to do that. Whereas the students who actually create the content, they're just pretty much supplying Turnitin with free material to cross-check other material against. And I don't know. I think I wrote a paper on that in high school about how that was, inappropriate. But I guess if we're sticking with it, I guess my philosophical objection is notwithstanding, we're not going to change it. But anyway, does anybody else have any comments or questions on these programs? Thank you for putting this together.
Yes, thank you.
And for the overview there. All right.
Had a lot of help, just so you guys know,
Thank you
my
all.
administrators.
Really,
Yeah,
we
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Next up, kindergarten registration.
Yeah, it was 30 seconds.
Right now, we have 137 students that are pre-registered for kindergarten. We have a few others that didn't provide all their paperwork at their registration appointments, so they're kind of in queue. And we have 8 students that registered for first grade. Overall, we had a lot of appointments during the week that we provided the program registration for. We've had 21 students register after that time. So our secretary is just like slating time when it's not busy to be registering.
What is that? How does kindergarten registration work?
Well, we spend a week, and the appointments are set up every 15 minutes.
And you have to have an appointment.
You have to have an appointment, and so every 15 minutes a new family is coming through to meet with the secretary, meet with the nurse, meet with the guidance, or myself. And basically they're providing the paperwork. The nurse is checking for any health concerns that the parents have for their students starting kindergarten, and then they'll meet with guidance or myself about the start to kindergarten, what we can do together.
What paperwork do they have to provide? Medical records?
Yes, immunizations.
Immunizations?
How many are in that queue, did you say? About?
Well, it's kind of tricky. There were 105 on the census. There were 90 more call-ins. And some students are on intervention, they're on that list, some are on the census list, some are on the call-in list. So I have to cross-reference all those pieces.
What were we expecting?
What's your best guess, what the registration's going to finalize
Well,
for kindergarten?
before
Is
that,
that what
though,
you're asking?
no.
No.
Where are we right now? So how many students do we budget
137.
for kindergarten? Like, how many are we expecting in line with our enrollment
I believe it's probably
projections?
going to be the same that it is now. So
Okay.
I'm expecting we have 194 currently, so I'm expecting
Okay.
the same.
I noticed that's the number Jim used on his projections too in the presentation on Thursday. 194.
And when's the deadline?
We're hoping for 194.
Or isn't there a deadline, really?
We hope that they get in before
Right.
we do our screenings, because we'll be doing our screenings in May.
But they can register really up to any point.
Yes,
Yeah.
last year we had registrations up until the weekend before school.
Right.
And how many in first grade? 7?
8 more, but there will be more than that will be registered.
Well, even that is something that I never really appreciated fully, how when I think of an elementary school principal, I don't think, meeting with every or nearly every kindergarten family with the, with the help of guidance counselor. Like, there are these other projects going on that I never really thought happened. So I appreciate all the work you guys do there too, because I didn't know that was there was a principal role in that kindergarten registration process.
Dane pass that off to Melanie now.
Well, we thank Melanie.
Maybe families coming in my room.
What I would like to do is talk to Scott about possibly getting that paperwork generated online.
Oh.
I think that would, a lot of districts do that.
I think parents would appreciate it.
I can add some color to that if I might. Currently, I talked to you briefly earlier about we're looking at different new systems, SISs, and
What does that stand for?
Student information systems. And one of the features we're hoping to get with that that are more robust than currently eSchool is an online registration situation, so that it takes away at least some of the administrative burden. And when I say that, like just typing information, it's more clerical, but it'll make it a little bit more manageable from their standpoint, and also get some forms digitally ahead of time, so we can say, wait, you need this, this, and this, and hopefully it'll make it a little more easier.
So they're like pens ready? It would.
Yeah, it would help, because right
now.
now, basically, we're taking written information and punching it in, and so, yeah, it's especially important because we don't have the child accounting person anymore like we had before. We need to get the technology, but we're hoping we can get a system, a new student information system. That'll be one of the features. There are some other things that are probably a little bit higher priority on our list in terms of getting in there, but that's one of the features that's high in terms of looking at for us.
Aren't we, isn't that on the agenda tonight to talk about renewing the e-school?
Yeah, but we're not ready for next year.
But are we doing a 2-year renewal or one?
Should be 1 year.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
Should be 1 year, because Scott's sitting in these meetings with me, with them. I would hope, unless the BCIU can't time it, should be a 1 year renewal. I wouldn't go for 2 years, because why are we talking?
Right. That's why.
Yeah.
Have you also talked to the IU about maybe seeing if they would?
They're wed right now to eSchool pretty heavily. There's about 3 to 4
There's maybe about
districts.
half the districts use it, or less than half, really.
What's that?
How many? It's like maybe 8 districts use it.
They're wed pretty good. There's about 3 or 4 I think that don't. Like I think Wilson does, and I think Exeter is one that doesn't. And I'm getting into Scott's realm a little bit here, so bear with me here. It is kind of a partner project with this, so I'll defer to him on that particular piece.
Okay. I can mention this to their technology director when I'm there next week. And
absolutely, we're looking. So I mean that's I think it's Power School and Sapphire are the ones that we're looking at right now.
In
I
terms
don't want
of
to step in Scott's toes too much. It's just some of this overlaps. So.
Melanie had mentioned digital documents and all that, and submitting information online. Universally, like looking at the entire district, how would we say that we've adapted to these types of online? Like I know at the high school for handbooks and all that, now we don't send out printouts, like a big stack of papers. It's all go online and you sign off that you've reviewed it online. Maybe we can even have an online sign off. Maybe instead of doing paper.
Yeah, actually, we'll next year. Scott's
okay.
that way. And Laura Shostin, who is our seminary, has a unique skill set. So many of the forms in the high school are coming online interactively. And she's working with Becky Ranieri, our guidance secretary, and Laura Shostin is in the main office working with Scott.
Okay.
Because right now, even though we have things online, usually they're PDF.
Well,
What's the difference? You print them and you write them out.
Well, even if we have a way to email PDFs, like if we have a district-wide PDF email address, like completed at home, just save it and send it. But how is that working in other places in the district in terms of, like, are we still printing a lot of papers and sending them home, or are we pretty much?
We're using that peach tree.
Yeah, peach jar, Carol. Yeah. All right. I'm just thinking how convenient all of that is in terms of you just save so much time. So there has to be a secretary typing that information up once it comes in anyway. Well, why not just have it sent to us typed as it is? Okay. Great. Anything else on kindergarten registration? Do we need to do anything there? I remember some years I think we had to maybe establish a cutoff date or something. Is there any action required? Okay. Great. New immunization requirements.
This is just an informational item, and it's actually something I got to talk tomorrow with our administrators in our meeting a little more in depth. I just want to make you aware of this because, and this is going to be a problem throughout the state. There are two important issues here. Number one, 12th graders they're going to increase the immunizations they have to get, which is meningitis for 12th graders. That's it's like a booster shot for them. I'm not a medical expert, but that's one thing. But the one that's going to cause some problems is right now, if they don't have the shots, there's a pretty good leeway for the families to get them done. The state in the new legislation are now giving us 5 days. So basically, 5 days if these students don't get their shots, absent a doctor's note saying they have an appointment on this day, they will then be sent home. Okay, which right now it's like 8 months, I think, or something.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we are going to communicate this, and we're going to actually in admin council tomorrow we'll talk about exactly how between our social media, sending stuff home in Tuesday folders, and making voice blasts, we're going to communicate it. I'm working, and I'm not promising this, but the Birdsboro Community Center, we did reach out to them. They might, and this would be separate from the school, they may be willing, and I don't want to speak for them because they haven't agreed to it yet, but at least in theory, they want to hear us out in terms of maybe even hosting a clinic if we can put things to help them do it, make it easier for some of our families, because we do have the meningitis thing, and then also, much more than past years, they're going to have to get this done, or unfortunately, we're going to be required to exclude some people. So we have a communication plan in place, or we will have it in place tomorrow, and then maybe there's potential for a community partnership there to try to help in terms of getting this all done, so we don't have a lot of kids missing school in the 6th day of school.
So this has been passed already?
This has been passed, so it is a repercussion.
And then what if the parents don't comply? The kids aren't truant, right?
They actually are considered an illegal absence.
How are we doing with, I know it's become more of a thing for parents to not have their children vaccinated. Is that an issue here in Daniel Boone?
There is a religious exception to this. There's a couple exceptions to this. There's some exceptions in regards to religion. There's exceptions if a child qualifies under the Kiddy-Vento, which is our homeless law. There's exceptions in terms of the documentation. There's also exceptions in regards to if a child's under foster care in terms of how that will be handled. Those are exceptions to the rule. They're not the normal situations.
Okay.
I had no other forum to express this, that's why I brought it.
No, yeah, all right.
We could have a lot of, I just need to get it out to you so you know what's happening.
Thank you.
JRTC.
Yes.
Yeah, so I sent a preliminary document for you. You really want to start the conversation about this. We may or may not go that way. Originally, when we started the program, we expressly told Mr. Helzer or Captain Helzer, depending on the reference point, that this was going to be a club and a club only and an unfunded club. And it has remained so. I will say that it is tremendously popular. It also...
How many students do we have in it?
About 50, give or take. There's some students who come over from the middle school. That has been,
How do they get
that
there?
was his goal. That 50, doesn't that qualify them for something?
60 is the number.
60
is the magic number that qualifies you. However, all that does
Do they
is
become a
qualify us-
battalion? What do they become at 60?
Well, no, they qualify with the Department of Defense to receive and be an optional,
Pathway into military.
really becoming a JRTC from the Department of Defense. But what that really qualifies you, in the old days, they would send and fund it. They don't fund it anymore, so it's a non-funded opportunity. You can now hire one of their retired officers to
How many
lead your
would it cost
program.
what? The cost of what?
We
One
already have a
Tomahawk
retired
missile,
officer?
and you can fund
Yeah.
all of this across the country.
It costs a teaching salary. That's what it has traditionally been. When we were at Phoenixville, we did not put them in the teacher scale. We did it differently. But it's going to be around, a significant amount of money. What he's proposing is to have this, you saw the curriculum that I sent you, that similar curriculum that really focuses on leadership, not explicitly the U.S. Army or any specific branch, as it hasn't to this date. He would like to, of course, turn this into really a funded club. I mean, really that's what we're talking about. And then have an opportunity for students to get credit. I will give, a lot of credit. He puts a lot of time in. A lot of after school time. I mean, we couldn't pay in terms of time that, he puts in. I think it's
Well, that is a credit to Mr. Helzer because he did the same thing with the green team.
Yes, and I would think it would be appropriate to consider a stipend of some sort, but that would be up to you guys, but I certainly would support that. The issue that he'd like to do in turning it into a credit, I told him that our mindset is always on a 15 to 18 month planning cycle. So he brought this idea up now. We're not looking at it for the fall. It is a year out from that. And the other challenge we have is we're short-staffed, so to speak, to be able to add these types of things. So you'd have to remove something, or be able to offer this in the after-school time that he does it, and then kids can get credit for that after-school hours and time, and we'd have to put a measurement in place. So there's a lot to discuss, but that would be a sample of the things students
How would it
would
lead to
learn.
credits?
Excuse me?
How would it lead to credits?
Well, we would award them. I mean, based on the number of hours that students put into a program under that curriculum. So we would decide if it would be a quarter credit or a half credit. I mean, there's a lot more that has to be discussed. What you have to say is, looking at that curriculum, do we want to have more discussion, or
Is
we
this really a
absolutely don't?
Can you bring
curriculum? It's
something
just
for us
like a
to look
table of
at?
contents.
It is a table of contents, and there's a full curriculum behind it. I gave you the table of contents
I see.
because Mr. Hurley and I were having this
I didn't
conversation.
see that. Where
It
is
takes a
that?
lot of time to evolve the curriculums, right?
Yeah.
Before we do that, we want to have a preliminary conversation with you guys. Yeah,
Whether it's
this is worth going to the next step, or you know what, guys? No matter what you bring, quite frankly, we can't afford it, we can't do it, even though we like the idea, it's just not something we can do. If you say green light, go to the next step, then we will. Those are the topics I just want to share with you that would be evolving in the curriculum.
Can I take a sidebar? I mean, you could say no, but
No, go ahead.
I'm just curious where we're at with this obstacle course.
That's a great question. Yeah, sidebar is that it was in facilities tonight, so they were having that conversation to get the final approval. They have the insurance, all those things, but it has to go through facilities. You know, Mr. Helzer was ready to go like tomorrow. He usually is. And they have a whole army of kids and people ready to go. But it had to go through you guys to be approved at the facilities level. If it does, they're now shooting for potentially May to do this. But whatever timeline it gets approved on, they'll be ready to take action.
Well, something I have I have two thoughts, one of which is escaping me at the moment, but the other being, I think it's really, I had a conversation with Rob about this. We're talking about how to reach these different populations at the high school, and we've, really beefed up our AP offerings. We have the new honors capstone, which I think is fantastic. We have new courses out there. We're talking about more career prep and all that for other students. But here we have 50 students who are very much interested in this. And is it fair to say that these students are now more engaged in the high
Oh,
school?
for sure. Absolutely.
Even in their studies as well?
I think so. I mean, we could
because-
go back and really dig in and get real data on that at some point, see how much it's improved. But the parents that
I'm
I talked to,
interested in it.
yeah, the parents I talked to are thrilled that their kids have found this,
Right.
where they were not engaged, they found something, and a group to belong to,
Yeah.
and something positive.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
I
there's
think it's-
music, there's sports, now there's this.
Right.
And I think that's a big accomplishment
no
there.
question.
I wish you'd move forward and bring us a sales.
Okay, well, what I'll do now is start to work with Mr.
Personally,
Helzer.
I guess we all have to agree.
Yeah, if you all agree, I'll work with
I'd
Mr.
like to
Helzer,
hear
Mr. Hurley, and we'll bring a presentation.
Costs.
Yeah, a presentation.
Sometime in the summer. Give us to the summer to
Yeah.
work on it.
A presentation would be good. I
Okay.
do have this is all ancillary to the, teaching of physics and all
Sure,
that. right?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes,
He's not going to
yes.
become the only
Yes.
JRD, correct.
I just want to make sure right now,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Will the physics tell a bullet?
I think it's an excellent question to ask him when he does the presentation. Get that.
All right. No, I think, we appreciate whenever staff think
Yep.
outside the box. And
Yep, and I really appreciate what Mr. Helser's done for those kids in that program.
I think also,
think
just
it's
as a
huge.
side, I think it would be good, like I know we do a lot of recognitions. This all started, as I think I
Yeah.
mentioned before, with a young man named Wesley Ehrlich, who came to me with an
Right,
idea
that's
for a
right,
club.
that's right.
And we didn't want to know why we didn't have our OTC, and I told him, well, this is, it really was student-centered. And then, of course, Mr. Helzer jumped on it and really, grew
Yeah.
it.
Well, we had tanks, we had cargo carrying vehicles at our school.
Really?
We had a
Oh,
tank.
it's so
I heard of Bradley.
prestigious. What was it? What were they? I don't know.
I think they were Bradley,
Bradley.
our personnel carrier.
when we get an aircraft carrier, that'll
Those
be
They're all
students,
text.
but those students have gone with Dane out to the World War II weekend, and they've done some good things out there. I mean,
It's
it's
just like
pretty
a
neat if you
wow
look
factor
inside.
for our kids.
It is.
I don't
It
know if we
really
got
is.
the news media that we wanted from that or
Yeah.
not, but I remember being very impressed. Like, it just brings
Mid-Atlantic Air
prestige.
Museum actually had our JROTC come back. We go on a Friday. We do what's called wheelchair beginning. On Friday, we work with a lot of the nursing homes in the area. And then the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum loved our kids, had them come back as air marshals for Saturday and Sunday. So they were
We can't
directing
lose this.
Right.
We cannot lose this.
So I think there's something for you also to consider is how you want to, support Mr. Helzer in it. An appropriate level of stipend, I don't know what it would be, and we could build some into his teaching
It
because there's
should
things
be
we
in the
can do.
proposal.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and really,
To
I'm
Connor's point, any activity where we get 50 to 60 kids involved in, I think it's really worth consider
in like a year.
deeply, just
Well,
because of the number of.
What I'm looking for here, though,
We got to
is
get the model codified too, so it's not just built around Mr. Pelzer.
Correct.
With all due respect.
Absolutely.
what I'm looking for from the administration here, though, is a more like we had the discussion about the idea, and we like the idea, globally speaking, but something a little bit more
I want to
concrete.
drive down. Yeah, we're going to go from 20,000 to 5,000.
Sure.
And then we'll go
Great.
from 5,000 down to 1 and all the way in. So the next thing will be a presentation for you guys with that kind of level. Absolutely.
Thank you.
It'd be nice to. This might be a minor thing. It actually is a minor
I know
thing.
people on the
Absolutely.
board
One
roll
moment.
their eyes about that, but in fact,
Maybe they can
coming
come
back
and,
for funding
and do
there.
the Pledge of Allegiance or
Absolutely.
something.
Well, they're thrilled to do this. If they were out to Reading Phillies, they did the color guard there. I mean, they're constantly being invited places now to do this.
Yeah, it would be nice to have them at a board meeting
Sure.
and
We'll
do a
talk about
recognition.
that. Maybe on that presentation that will bring them to.
Maybe not that night, but
Most volunteer organizations that I've seen don't thrive like this. This is really thriving, and it has to be codified. I'd like to see that go in.
all right, great. Next up, let's see, computer science curriculum discussion. Who's heading this up?
Well, that's the AP one. Again, John Orem brought the idea to me. John Orem, and somebody could say, Rob, you know, he worked at NASA before he came to us. Right guy. And so he's in tech ed, but he has a strong computer science background. Right now, most of our computer science work is done with Mr. Simmons, and he does a fantastic job. We don't really do the AP piece.
Right.
So he would like to do that and take that on. Again, he knows we're on a 15 to 18 month planning cycle with this, but he brought it up. I sent the base packet to you about AP computer science principles for you to review. Look at till we have our next meeting and give me some feedback.
Well, what I
too.
thought was interesting here too. So I did 2 years of computer science at Daniel Boone High School, and I'm not, you know, a computer science guy. I'm not math inclined to do math well, but I was surprised how accessible this stuff was, and some of my peers, you know, really did excel. So I'd be interested in seeing where this goes. But that being said, I think this is at an entirely different level than the programming we're offering now. Is that a fair
I would say so,
characterization?
yes. Absolutely.
So there would have to be the question of how do we bridge that gap, and maybe we should open opportunities to participate in computer science at earlier levels. Right now it's 11th and 12th grade, I believe.
Our level 3 guys, and I have to look.
I didn't know we have
our
level
level. We have a level 3.
That's
They kind of are like
independent
teaching assistant type guys with Mr. Simmons. So they would be the candidates for this.
Right.
And in the long term, and he's speaking very correctly about the AP piece, but to me, computer science is an area where there's going to be jobs for kids in the long term. I think it's a skill. I mean, and there's a group of people out there that think it's almost like a foreign language in regards to every kid should be able to code. And I tend to fall in that. I know that, at least from an experimental basis, I know at the middle level they do a unit on coding. The question is, can we start to expand some of the computer science down levels where it's developmentally appropriate? It's not going to be right for every kid right away, but I think there's that question. I think broadly, how can we prepare more kids for the high level so they can get to the potential?
Well, even this will reinforce. It's complementary with our math curriculum. Like when I was in, I guess, computer science too, we were learning how to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division using a binary number system. Like it was, I just think there's a lot of, when you beef up this curriculum, I think you could really see some benefits, across the spectrum.
But I can't imagine the need. Like, what would the need be for that, like, say, this year? How many kids would actually, if we offered it?
That's the other
how many
thing, yeah.
kids would want it?
Computer Science
I'm
3,
just
how many
not
kids
seeing
do
it in
Computer
my
Science
circle.
3?
Well, right now, our computer science are in a heterogeneous group with 3 levels.
Right.
In that group.
In the same class.
And so it's kind of this big, kind of a lab where kids are supporting each other. Mr. Simmons, it's very interesting actually to watch. It's great to see these kids do this.
Yeah.
If I put it on it, we would be right at the 10 to 15 mark. I mean,
For Computer Science 3, for AP.
computer,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
more than I expected.
We're not looking to
So
do this
maybe
in the
every
fall.
other
Right.
year cycle or something?
We'd have to see. I mean, I don't want to go out on a limb and say which way it would go right now. I mean, sometimes, you see, with AP courses, I see 2 things. Obviously, high interest students and then cult of personality teachers. Kids want to take that teacher. Like, we
Right.
see that with AP Psych.
Right.
We have a lot of kids take AP Psych because they really like that teacher and want to have that teacher for that. So it just, hard to say.
Now, for the computer science, again on this topic though, would it be, any student can take the AP exam, right?
So you don't
even
even have
if
to
they don't
take
even
the
have to take the
course.
course. Could we set it up in a way where we retain that lab environment and say, hey, listen, the teacher could tap a kid on the shoulder and say, you're very good at this. You should consider learning the, not very inconspicuous there, Mrs. Bites. Okay, Mrs. Bites is stepping out for the sake of the minutes here. She just dropped all her stuff. We will not drop our stuff, and we're going to continue. Now, would it be possible, to have that almost as an add-on, the AP? I'm trying to figure out the way we can engage most
I think ultimately
students.
the level 3 diminishes and disappears. Your level 1 and 2 are being prepared to enter if they choose to the AP. That's more inclined.
Well, how does it work then for level 3? So maybe, so you could take level, I guess 10th grade would be level 1, 11th grade would be level 2, 12th grade.
And the 12th grade kids are kids who are highly interested, do a lot of, most of the kids are ahead of all of us anyway. So they do a lot of work on their own. They started a quasi-computer club where they do programming at the school. There's about 35 kids in that piece.
Yeah.
No,
I think that's
do you tie it into one of honors piece
honors capstone,
where maybe they can take the level 3 and then
honors credit.
Well, right now I think
the AP test.
You have to align
computer
to the
science.
curriculum,
Computer science too, though, is honors.
Yeah.
I believe already built in. No, I think this is an important part of what we're doing because just the jobs that are out there and the opportunities for these students who pursue them.
Hey, on a quick end note on the honors capstone program.
Yeah.
25 students.
Okay.
25 students are doing the project in art alone.
Just art. Great.
That's the only place we started. That was
Right.
the pilot this year.
Okay.
Next year
It'll be everywhere. When do they have to commit to that? Yeah, if we could just take a little bit of, we're at the end of the agenda for the most part. We don't have any staff here for the faculty roundtable. But I'm interested in hearing about how this is going, so.
So credit to Karen Schreiner. I went to her, I said, look, Karen, this is the concept. I said, we want to have an opportunity because we can't offer all these separate levels. It strangles the schedule, but it's in your best interest as a department to have this honors capstone project because you'll identify early kids who are highly interested in becoming long-term art students. So she was on board right away. And she designed the process for what it takes to get this honors capstone weight and the projects and things you have to do. And it ends up they submit a portfolio and there are a bunch of items they have to do. So we, I think, it was December where she and I really firmed that up. And then to start the second semester is where, because you have to teach a whole bunch of foundational pieces in the first semester. So it seems like it's a best fit the second half of the year. And so that's when she introduced it. And like I said, she had a bunch of kids.
And these students they're electing to do it. It's not, okay,
100% electing to do it. And it's happening simultaneously while they're sitting right next to a student who may not want to do that.
Yeah.
So they're taking it to another level,
really
which gives them ownership
right.
in their work.
And that was the whole idea there.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see how this works out, more universally for other programs as well. Do you have any thoughts, Sarah? Oh, thank you, Dave. Dave just patted me on the back here. But no, and I'm thankful the board went along with this, and I'm thankful that there was buy-in from you and the staff up there. But do we have any idea, or do you have any vision for how this is going to work for, let's say, English? Well, maybe English.
Well,
we're not doing it. It's only
Encore based.
It's only
so it's Encore based. But earth-based science is a good example. So we've had conversations around that because it's not a required science to take. And it's going to be a work in progress. Some of our teachers, like Karen, are very excited and jump on it, and then other people are reluctant. So there's going to be a work in progress next year on how we're going to support them and go through these projects and set it up. But,
and if we can find a way for it to be standardized, I think that's important.
Well, I think standardized appropriately in the Encore area. So
within the classes and courses,
one the other's teaching art, one it's the same piece.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think it's that way across conference.
I'm just thinking if we're going to have that honors mark, honor should mean something. So, great. Well, we have some time left. I do want to just make the statement again here that we're going to reserve the last 15 minutes of the meeting for faculty. If they show up, they're going to be invited to join the table. I haven't we discussed at the last meeting, sending out an email to that effect, letting them know not only that they're welcome at these C&I meetings, but also that if they have items they think are worthy of the committee's deliberation or consideration, that they can always forward those on to the committee chair or committee members, and we can talk about putting them on the agenda. So I want to open this up to be more accessible to faculty. I'm going to discuss this a little bit at the COW meeting tonight. I wanted the board to be aware before an email went out to staff, but I did speak with Mike about it. Were you at the last meeting? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Dane, And then Dane came for the other one. Okay, never mind. Very good. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about, curriculum related? Any topics?
Well, I had a question for Rob. With the balls you're juggling, how are we with the foreign language?
Right now, they are literally they're working on the Spanish, the French. German was updated recently, so they're writing curriculum literally as we speak on that. So that's where we're at with it. So
I think
not done. I'll let you know as soon as they get done with it.
one of the things Mary Beth had put together a while back was a curriculum review cycle.
Yes, you did.
I don't think we're on that cycle.
No, we're
right?
not.
I think there needs to be some attention paid, and this is I don't think it's something necessarily this committee can oversee. I think it needs to be an administration project, but just again that standard, maybe every 5 years we're going to comb through the curriculum or the teachers. There needs to be a time frame there, like a curriculum review cycle. So I don't know if that's something, and I think that's really a role for the chief academic officer when we get one to oversee that, and also the syllabus tie-in and all of that. But all right, well, we can adjourn if nobody has anything else. Going once, going twice. All right, the CNI meeting is adjourned at 7:01 p.m.